Today's episode is sponsored by PGX Comics. Are you sick of the corporate games of CGC and want to take our hobby back from big business? PGX Comics, shipping nationwide. Hello and welcome to a special middle of the month PGX unboxing. And boy, do we have a Gen Xer's delight. That's right, we're going to feature some iconic books that's kind of more tailored for fellow Gen Xers. We'll bring out the best memories of possible. And again, thanks to our sponsor, as always, PGX. Now, I've been saying this for the past 2 years. I'm one of those guys that when I got back into comics, I just followed what everybody else was telling me and using CGC. But then my experience as a former government auditor / data analyst got me questioning a lot of crazy things that just didn't add up right. Like, why does one company have total control over an entire market? And is this company abusing their position in this market? And number 3, why are people mindlessly following this trend when they should be looking for the overall long-term strength and stability of this wonderful hobby? And that's why I switched to PGX grading services as well as EGX. I have to mention them as well. The point of the matter is we need to make sure that everything is all equal. That if there's this huge gap, that's not really good for us to pass down to the next generation. And we're setting ourselves for an epic catastrophe if the market crashes. If we have more than one company, then hey, there's some give and take and fluctuation for self-adjusting. And that's just economics 101, ladies and gentlemen. And I think a lot of modern comic kiddos are putting an emphasis on today's dollars and not future dollars. So that's kind of why I've been doing this, not only just to educate fellow Gen Xers, but also these youngsters out there that, hey, invest, put your money into these smaller companies so later down the road, I've always said the book is what matters the most, not who grades it. But the fact of the matter is there's no universal standard. Like, for example, with stocks and mutual funds, you have the SEC and the FDIC regulation and stuff like that. We don't have that. It's basically self-ruling. So that's kind of why I'm doing this. And also, hey, we get to look at some cool books. And I enjoy doing this because of the feedback from people. I'm learning things, you're learning things, and that's what this is all about. And hey, maybe you'll see a book and like, hey, I remember that, or ooh, why is he picking that up? Or, hey, I need to get on and pick that one up for myself. So it's kind of fun to do this. So with that aside, let's dive into the books that PGX sent back and enjoy. Alrighty, so before we dive into the first book, I'm going to start doing this because a lot of people have been asking. The game that we're featuring in the background is Medal of Honor Frontlines for PlayStation 2. A great game. This game is probably one of the few that started the whole first-person shooter. I mean, of course, Wolfenstein 3D and Doom would be probably, the first ones. But again, this is just, Call of Duty and all that stuff. So that's what's playing in the background, just for all those that have always wondered what's going on. So the first book I actually featured during my guest appearance of Peg Warmers. And if you don't know who Peg Warmers' channel is, everybody knows the angry video game nerd / cinemassacre. Peg Warmers is a channel within that YouTube network. When I went up to Philadelphia, I got to tour the Angry Video Game Nerd Studios. And yes, it is a legitimate small studio. I got to see the sets. I got to meet all of the AVGN. So if you haven't, there'll be a link below. Check out Peg Warmer's channel. Kevin is one of the guys that has been contributing to Cobra Convergence for the past several years. He's a good person and a good friend. So I think his contents that he has is really informative and a lot of fun. So make sure you head over and subscribe to Peg Warmers. So with all that aside, the first issue we're going to feature is Voltron Number One, which came out in December 1985. No, December 10th, 1984, from Modern Comics, which is a subsidiary of Charleston Comics. Now, what's interesting about this book, beside the obvious, it's freaking Voltron's first appearance. I mean, done. But around like March, April of 22, there was news about a bidding war between Warner Brothers, Amazon, and I think, what was the next one? Universal. So they're all bidding for the live action rights for Voltron. Now, we all know about the DreamWorks Netflix series, the cartoon, which has been a pretty relatively successful, spanning several seasons. But, you know, I know that with the Star Blazers, the Yamato, they have something like that for that, like a live action adaptation of that iconic cartoon. If you don't know what the hell Star Blazers is, you're definitely not Gen X. But that basically was started, besides Speed Racer, the whole anime craze. So learn your history, folks, and you'll appreciate some of the old stuff when you look at stuff today. But Star Blazers basically was the trailblazer for anime. And Voltron, of course, we all know the history. Our good friends at Toy Galaxy and as far as Retro Blasting did whole series about Voltron. But again, this is one of those things, like, I'll show you a picture. I have a little Voltron section in the retro room. And of course, this guy looks phenomenal in that corner. And where's the lion? Oh, here's a lion. So the black lion, I have all the lions, and there's been several different toy releases for Voltron. I think I have the Trendmasters and this recent Play School, which is actually a good, inexpensive but good representation of the iconic Matchbox with the die-cast model and everything. But this is great. And also Rawson Tuber, who directed Red Notice, you know, that Netflix movie with The Rock, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds. He supposedly is the director for this, or he's the person that's going to be bringing Voltron to live action. Here's a funny story. I bought this book for like $12, right? Newsstand, everything, really low price. The week later, this news popped up, and that same book shot over $100. So think about it, a newsstand version of this really difficult to find book. Now, I got a 5.0, and you may be like, but let's add the factors. Newsstand, predominantly white cover, it still displays beautifully. The back has a advertisement for the Panache Place toys. You cannot go wrong with this one. I mean, this 5.0 is a beautiful 5.0 in my opinion. And, you know, as we get closer to that release of whenever that is, of the live action Voltron, prices have kind of like just, you know, cooled off just a little bit. So now's the time before any new news of Voltron pops back up. This is going to be a hot one. I mean, I could see these kiddos who do the cosplaying, they were into anime, getting back into Voltrons. And hey, all you millennials, hey, I'm sorry to say, but this is pretty obvious. This was before Power. This was Power Rangers, your Megazord, before Megazord, guys. I mean, Megazord and Voltron. I mean, that's where Megazord came from. Is from Voltron. More or less so, but at the same time, the whole concept and idea was first utilized for Voltron. So this is definitely for any Gen Xer out there. You have to get Voltron. I mean, he goes right alongside my G.I. Joe number 1, Transformers number 1. So to have the first appearance of Voltron is just near and dear to me. Okay, the next book we're going to take a look at, I think, is really overlooked, and that's because there was a anniversary issue 50 issues before this one that is still resonating with the fandom. It is an absolute modern day Key, even though it's been so many years since then. And that's another thing. The Golden Age, Bronze Age, Silver Age, Modern Age, they need to revise this for books from 1985 to now to be considered modern. I mean, there needs to be, you know, another age that needs to be put in between modern and also those 80s and 90s books. But anyway, I'm talking about Amazing Spider-Man issue number 350. Again, an anniversary issue, but this one often gets overlooked. This book came out in August of 1991. Boy, what an amazing year 1991 was. Metallica's Black Album, Pearl Jam's 10, Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger, and of course, Nirvana, Nevermind. This was the summer of Nevermind. But anyway, there were so many cool things happening in 1991, and this book, it's interesting. It's not getting the same hype as issue number 300, and deservingly so. But at the same time, I think there might be a little bit of renewed interest because of who the antagonist is, and that is Dr. Doom. Now, Dr. Doom is hot with his possible appearance in Black Panther number 2, his probably involvement in the Kang Dynasty series, the Kang Wars. I think that there's going to be a lot of things. And the other thing is there's so many cameos in this book. Erik Larson basically shines, and everything that we know about Erik Larson is on full display in this issue. We have all guest appearances by most of the Avengers, Captain America, Thor via flashback, and also a rare flashback of Ben. Uncle Ben appears in this issue. Now, besides Bruce Wayne's parents and Uncle Ben, those are the only true dead people in comics. I mean, everybody else comes back to life, but those three individuals are really dead. But anyway, Spider-Man 350. And again, look at PGX. They did a phenomenal job. This book looks amazing. And actually, when I got the book, I want to point out the clean and press. You could see like the little bit of the spine ticks around the staple. There's not much you could really do with that, but they did clean and press this book, and it would have gotten probably about a 6.5 or 7 without the clean and press. And for them to iron out all that, remember when I got this Spider-Man collection, it was in a big plastic bin, loose. Half of them were boarded, half of them were not. Unfortunately, this one was not bag and boarded. So for them to like smooth everything out, you could see when you look at it. So again, that's why I recommend getting the in-house clean and press versus, I know a lot of these modern comic people send their books out to these professional clean and press. Basically, all they're doing is they're taking like a tie, you know, the things you see in the laundromats where they, you know, press shirts and stuff. That's basically what these kiddos are doing. They're just, you know, cleaning it up and then using that press to gently press the books to make it as flat and level as possible. I like using the PGX in-house because you're sending your books in one spot, get everything done. The prices aren't that much more, but I would highly recommend utilizing that in-house service of clean and press. And I think out of all the companies that I've utilized that service with, PGX does the best job by far. I mean, I've seen a big difference, like in the Ghost Rider that I shared last month, Ghost Rider Marvel Spotlight number 6. That book was probably like a 4 or 3 when I picked it up. It was beaten up, but for it to get a 6.0 after all of that, and remember, those books, the paper quality were, you know, they were good compared to other companies, but at the same time, paper degenerates. You know, it has a shelf life. That's why getting your books, it's not just getting a number, it's preserving a book as well. So by doing this method, you're prolonging that half-life for anything that's like, you know, organic or organic based, like paper, alrighty? So Spider-Man issue number 350, beautiful, beautiful. I like that Doom in there right there. All right, the next book we're going to feature is the book that I think, out of all the books I'm showing, that you definitely need to make note of and try to add this one out of your collection more so than any other book that I'm showcasing today. Why? Because it has a lot of significance in the MCU. And it was actually the first season of Loki and Doctor Strange, Multitude of Madness, that basically propelled this book. And only those that have been keeping, good notes and just paying close attention have been able to pick up on that secret spec. And I'm talking about Fantastic Four issue number 245, which came out in August of 1982. This is the first appearance of Franklin Richards, basically Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman's child, into the MCU. Now, we saw during that trial of the Scarlet Witch, Mr. Fantastic basically saying, hey, I know how you feel. I have a child and, at home. Basically talking about and confirming that, the offspring of these two Fantastic Four members is in the MCU. Now, that's going to have some major implications going forward in the MCU concerning the Kang dynasty and Kang as a character. As you know, Kang in the Fantastic Four is one of those villains of not only Avengers, of Fantastic Four. So Kang is basically pissed off everybody. But we know that he's gone through time and multiverses, and especially when it comes to Mr. Fantastic, has been messing with him. And also the Young Avengers aspect of this. Now, with Kate Bishop, we saw, Spider-Man and America Chavez and Ms. Marvel, all these young characters. And I've been saying this for a while. A lot of us older guys need to take note that our kids are interested in those characters, and that Marvel is actively developing more stuff to attract that young audience, those young adults, teenagers, and so on and so forth. And I think that's great, but this is another way you could enjoy this great hobby with your kids, or in my case, my nephews and my nieces. And I think that's what makes this book really good, is that it has a lot of spec behind it. And I picked this up, and this is what makes this cool. I picked this up at my childhood comic book shop in Burlington, New Jersey, called Heroes. That place has been around, it's moved from different places, but I remember going there as a kid, and the fact that it's still in existence just warms my heart. So when I visited my folks several months ago, I went there and I found this in the Fantastic Four section at a great price. Now, Loki had come out, but Dr. Strange 2 had not. So I was able to pick this up at a great price. This is a newsstand edition, and again, PGX did a great job with this book. 9.4. This one got a clean and pressed as well, and they knocked this one out of the park. And look what's on the back. Come on. Join the Joes, the G.I. Joe fan club subscription kit. Home run with me, guys. Home run. And again, I'm just excited and so happy to have this book. They did such a wonderful job with it. And to have this in my collection, knowing that, the only way this book is only going to go in one direction, and that's up. So this is definitely a wise pickup for you guys out there. All right, the next book we're going to feature is, again, another GenX icon. It is my favorite Transformers cover, and it just goes with the 80s so much. It's one of the probably top 10 covers when you think about the 80s. And I'm talking about Transformers issue number 5, Are All Dead. Again, this is one of those books that when I look through other people's collection and I see this or don't see this, tells me that they're in the hobby for the right reasons. And a little bit of an insight, and it just shows it's not super duper expensive, but it's one of those books that, you know, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, this book is just one of those books, a must have in any person that collects that is doing it for the right reasons. That's what this book tells me. Coming out in June 1985, and it was just the cover itself, the artwork by Mark Bright is absolutely fantastic. And then this is no computer bullshit, none of that stuff. This is somebody taking a pen or a paint to canvas and doing this cover. That's what I love about this. And PGX hit this one out of the park. This book actually also got a clean press. I bought this book off of eBay, and I guess I was shocked that I got a newsstand, and I was seeing like all the other graded books and how, you know, they're a little bit of expensive, but nothing crazy. But the fact that I got a newsstand, that's the one thing when you buy shit off of eBay, it's like a gamble. You don't know if it's going to be, you know, a 9 or it's going to be a 6. Like, it's like that weird. But with PGX's clean and press service, you know, it takes a little bit of that when you send in a book for them to encase and to put on display. It just gives you a little bit, hey, this could be good, you know. So and this is, I also own Transformers Number One that we featured doing another unboxing, and this is the issue that I wanted so bad, just because of the cover art of it is just amazing. And it's the first appearance of Circuit Breaker, which is like a girl that looks like a circuit board. Now what's interesting about her character is since she was created by Marvel, she never transitioned to the DreamWorks or the IDW incarnation of Transformers. She's a purely Marvel character, and she has appeared very briefly in other Marvel stuff, but she's basically a one and done type of character. You know, let's be honest here. The fact that this is her first appearance, and with IDW losing the license for G.I. Joe and Transformers and My Little Pony, there's a possibility of it coming back to Marvel. Very slim, but still it's out there. I mean, you guys know on the channel I talk to the people in the IDW G.I. Joe team, and they're basically, like I said in my previous video, they're still waiting. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff going on where the Hasbro franchises are going to end up, and people don't really know. But with that aside, this is one of those books that I highly recommend if you're a fellow Gen Xer. You gotta get this book and just have it in your collection. And again, I'm so impressed with the clean and press on this one, more so than the other ones. But this one is one of those books that just looks beautiful on display. It is so eye-catching. When people come to visit, and I know they're like, you know, one of my homies, definitely have this one out on display, and this immediately people just gravitate to this cover. So Transformers issue number 5. All right, so my regulars know that when I do these unboxings, I always save the best for last, and this one is definitely a book that I really am happy to have in my collection, and I got it just at the right time. Of course, with the Andor series coming out in the next week or so, Star Wars has found new life in the modern age with Disney Plus. Those 3 sequel movies sucked ass. There's no doubt about it. They were terrible. Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. I never thought there'd be a day where I would get up and walk out of a Star Wars movie, and that literally broke my heart. You know, as a Gen Xer and, you know, a fan, a person that grew up getting those Kenner toys on birthdays and holidays. That's the one thing that's different between us and these modern Star Wars fans is we lived that era where there was no internet, and that's the one, you know, as much as I shit on modern comics, I will say that the good thing about it is it's given the proper respect that the Marvel Star Wars comics deserve. Think about it. We went through the entire 80s, the prequels, and no one gave a damn about these issues. And for us that grew up these were our only way of continuing the movies, is through these zany Marvel comic books. And this is the movie, the comic adaptation of Empire. And issue number 43 is the first appearance of Lando. And, you know, we have the Han fans, but I could say Lando is just right there, because there's a redemption arc in it. Like, you know, with Lando, he was out for himself. He was a selfish person, and then he became a selfless person, thinking about others. So it was cool to see him in the last Rise of Skywalker. But the Lando was actually one of the things I actually liked about the sequel movies, is how he kind of became a mentor. You know, he piloted the Millennium Falcon at one more time, and he got to interact with Luke and, you know, Leia from a little bit. I mean, not together, like, you know, I would like to see that, but the fact that they acknowledged each other, I guess, you know. But this issue has been one of those books that I targeted right away. I mean, the first appearance of Boba Fett is already out of my price range. Lando is one of those the first tier characters that definitely deserves to be acknowledged and recognized, and to have Lando's first appearance and part of the comic adaptation of Empire is just icing on the cake. Just same thing I said about the Transformers issue number 5. This thing is just near and dear, especially for us Gen Xers, more so than modern Star Wars. I'm not shitting on modern Star Wars or comic fans or modern Star Wars fans, but we lived this, we went through it, and these things mean a little bit more because of our experiences. And to have this book, and again, PGX did a great job with this one. This was also clean and pressed. I picked it at a local comic shop. I'm not going to support this guy. He's in Vero Beach. He's kind of a dick. I'm going to be honest with you, but I don't endorse his shop. But he always like tries to like get more on me, and like I try to tell him like, hey, you know, I want to help you out. I'm not asking like, you know, maybe hook me up with a little discount here, but this guy just wants to charge me max on everything, and he goes to eBay to see the prices before he rings you out. What a dick move. Like, you know, doing that at the cash register, like hopping on the thing and seeing, oh, am I selling this for a right price? I mean, do that shit beforehand, you know, but don't do it while I'm checking out. That's my big beef with this entire thing. But anyway, I finally got the book, and I paid great price for it. And I think that's where the win-win is in this case. So Star Wars issue number 43, first appearance of Lando Calrissian, getting an 8.5, another beautiful job by PGX. Alrighty, so that's going to wrap up this mid-month comic book unboxing for PGX. Stay tuned, in another week or so we're going to do another PGX unboxing. We got a shitload of books. That's why I'm kind of doing it twice a month going forward, just to play catch up and just to share with everybody else the joy and fun of these wonderful books. Remember, it's not the number that's next to your book. It's the experience, the book itself, that is the fun, especially when you're at this age. You know, we all have IRAs, stocks, mutual funds. So our retirement at this stage should be on autopilot. And I would highly recommend these youngsters to get and do this hobby. Learn what while it's good to take the lessons from comic book collecting, apply it and build a real portfolio. Because the number one rule in retirement investment is never invest in comic books, baseball cards, and toys. Because you'll be saying, welcome to Walmart, you know, in your later life. So, and I'm not saying that to be negative. I'm just saying looking out for you in your best interests. I mean, I went to Rutgers, you know, I worked for the government. I worked for government contractors as an auditor and data analyst. Let's keep the fun in this hobby, and let's pass on the values that it teaches. That's the most important thing. I'm getting so much fun sharing this hobby with my nieces and nephews, and hopefully one day my own kids. But I think that's the real joy that I get. You know, when I get a book and I get it, like recently I had my nephew and niece visit me, and for gifts I gave them graded copies of Miss Marvel or Spider-Man for my nephew. He loves Spider-Man, and he got issue 362, which is the first cover appearance of Venom, Carnage, and Spidey all together. And the joy that they got, and then they go back with their parents and they're like, oh, they want to get into comic books too. That is a win-win, and that's why I'm saying don't put all your eggs in CGC. Invest in the other smaller companies. That's where your dollars should go, so you could pass that on to another generation. I know from the corporate world, it just takes one executive decision to fuck everything up, and I don't want that to happen. So that's why, I mean, when I say sponsor, I do pay money, and I just get my books graded at a discount rate. That's why, because they're such a small company, they can't really do it. I understand that, you know, they can't really do it for free, but they could do it for a big chunk off, and I'm okay. With that, you know, I don't need. That's totally fine. The point is the lessons that I'm passing down to all of you that watch. So, you know, you become a wiser consumer and you have fun doing it. Anyways, stay tuned. We're going to do another G.I. Joe recap for issue number 396. So we're getting close to issue 300, thus marking the end of the IDW G.I. Joe series. So bittersweet on that. And if you haven't, I'm asking everybody to send a Instagram message or a tweet to G.I. Joe Official to make sure they include this channel going forward. I discovered that during the 40th anniversary, most of the G.I. Joe YouTubers they acknowledged, well, actually all of them were Caucasian. They didn't acknowledge any of the minority, meaning me, the only minority G.I. Joe YouTuber. And a line that celebrates diversity, I think that's a big miss. And I like to see more kids get into the values of G.I. Joe. Diversity, working together, you know, the greater good defeats evil. I mean, those are the things that I think modern kids would definitely enjoy. I think G.I. Joe has a place in today's world. So if you could send a tweet or Instagram message to the official G.I. Joe, asking them to consider this channel when they acknowledge the community and so on and so forth. Again, this is Shabu Are You. We'll see you next time, and have a good one.